The morning sun cast long shadows through the lofty windows of the downtown courthouse in Elmwood City, painting the marble halls with enchanting patterns of light and darkness as the clock chimed precisely 8:45 a.m. Each chime resonated like a clarion call, marking the beginning of another bustling day in the realm of justice. The marble corridors hummed with the industrious footsteps of attorneys, their polished shoes clicking rhythmically against the cool, hard floor. Each briefcase swung with a practiced ease, resembling metronomes that kept tempo to the hurried symphony of legal proceedings about to unfold. As the attorneys navigated the corridors, the scent of freshly brewed coffee wafted invitingly through the air, mingling with the musty scent of dusty legal tomes that lined the shelves of the courthouse library. This unique olfactory blend was further enriched by the faint aroma of antique oak emanating from the well-worn furniture that had stood the test of time, bearing witness to countless trials and tribulations. It was a heady bouquet that seemed to energize the very spirit of the court, an aromatic reminder of the timeless institution dedicated to law and order. In his chambers, Judge Thaddeus Castellanos sat in a stately demeanor, poring over the day's docket with a furrowed brow that hinted at the weight of the decisions before him. His reputation for punctuality was as unyielding as the steel gavel that resided perpetually at his side, symbolizing his commitment to justice. It was said that not even a second of tardiness would be tolerated in his courtroom, a hallmark of his unrelenting standards. Judge Castellanos was a man of distinction. His silver hair was meticulously combed, not a single strand out of place, exuding an aura of authority and grace. He wore his black robe with pride, and it was as crisp and fresh as the silence demanded in his courtroom, signaling readiness for whatever gravity the day might bring. Outside his chamber, the bustle of the courthouse continued unabated, each person arriving with their own stories, disputes, and aspirations, all seeking resolution under the watchful eye of justice. On this morning in Elmwood City, the stage was set for yet another riveting chapter in the ongoing narrative of law and human experience. Meanwhile, across the bustling metropolis, in a quaint office adorned with diplomas, awards, and framed photographs of significant moments in her career, Elara Castellanos Gonzalez was experiencing an unexpected hitch in her meticulously crafted morning routine. The walls of her office were lined with certifications and accolades that spoke volumes about her commitment to her profession, each trophy serving as a reminder of the countless late nights and early mornings she had dedicated to her work. At 45, Elara had devoted 2 decades to ascending the ladder of legal triumphs, her journey marked by each rung she climbed being a testament to her unyielding work ethic and fierce dedication to justice. She was known in her field not just for her legal acumen, but also for her unwavering integrity and compassion for her clients. However, on this particular day, her intentions to tackle the pressing matters of her caseload were abruptly interrupted. Her assistant, a young whirlwind named Mr. Flibbin, burst through her office door without so much as a knock, his expression a mixture of urgency and concern. His tousled hair seemed to reflect his frenetic energy, and his glasses slid down his nose as he spoke, struggling to catch his breath. "Elara, there's an emergency with the Castillo case," he exclaimed, his voice a tapestry of urgency that sliced through the composed atmosphere of the office. Alara's heart raced as she pushed aside the stack of files and half-drunk coffee cup that had become her morning companions. The Castillo case had been a complex web of legal challenges, entwined with high stakes and media scrutiny. She had poured her heart and soul into building a robust defense, knowing that the fate of her client depended on her expertise and resolve. "What's happened?" Alara said, her tone shifting from the calm professionalism she usually exuded to one brimming with concern. Mr. Flibbin stepped closer, his voice lowered as if the walls might have ears. "There's been a development. The prosecution just filed a new motion, and it could upend everything we've been working for. We need to address this immediately." The gravity of his words hung heavily in the air, and Alara felt the familiar rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins, igniting the fire within her to tackle this challenge head-on. "All right," she replied, her mind already racing through a list of potential strategies. "Let's gather all the information we need and pull the team together. We can't afford to lose momentum now." As Mr. Flibbin nodded and darted out of the room to collect the necessary documents, Alara took a deep breath, steeling herself for the battle ahead. This was not just another day at the office. It was a pivotal moment in her career, and she was determined to rise to the occasion, just as she had time and again throughout her storied legal journey. The Castillo case was a pro bono matter that had quickly become one of Ilara's most pressing concerns. It involved a single mother who was on the verge of eviction, a situation that tugged at Ilara's heartstrings and ignited her passion for justice. This mother, already facing numerous challenges, was now fighting against the clock to keep a roof over her child's head. As Alara delved deeper into the details of the case, her heart skipped a beat, a physical manifestation of the urgency she felt. She was acutely aware of Judge Castellanos' unwavering stance on punctuality, a trait that had earned him a reputation among the legal community. She remembered the story of how he had once imposed a staggering fine of $1,000 on a seasoned lawyer who had the audacity to show up just 5 minutes late. The judge had made his sentiments crystal clear at that time, stating emphatically, "The court waits for no one." Those words echoed in Alara's mind, amplifying her anxiety about the impending court appearance. Glancing at her watch, she felt a rush of panic when she noticed the time was 8:50 a.m. There was hardly any margin for error, as her significant case in Judge Castellanos' court was scheduled to commence at precisely 9 a.m. sharp. Realizing the gravity of the situation, she turned to Mr. Flibbin, her trusted colleague, and said with resolve, "Give me 10 minutes with her." There was an urgency in her tone, and she knew that even a brief conversation could make a world of difference for the single mother. "Also," she added quickly, "please call the court to inform them I might be a tad delayed." As Mr. Flibbin nodded and grabbed his phone, Alara's mind raced with strategies and arguments that could potentially sway the judge. She was determined not to allow her client's fight for stability to be derailed by her own timing. The stakes were high, and failure was not an option. Mr. Flibbin nodded, his eyes wide with a mixture of concern and determination. They both understood the seriousness of the situation at hand, the weight of the impending consequences hanging over them like a dark cloud. In a frantic flurry of activity, Alara managed to buy some precious time, successfully stalling the looming eviction. Her calm and reassuring demeanor worked wonders to soothe the distressed young mother, whose face was etched with worry and fear for her family's future. Alara had always been drawn to the legal profession not for its prestige or wealth, but to serve those who truly needed assistance, regardless of their financial means. Her commitment to justice and her belief in equality fueled her passion. As she briskly made her way to the courthouse, the rhythmic click of her heels against the polished floorboards echoed in her ears, a stark reminder of the urgency of her mission. Her thoughts raced at breakneck speed, formulating the persuasive arguments she would present to the formidable and often intimidating Judge Castellanos. At precisely 9:05 a.m., she pushed open the heavy wooden doors leading to courtroom 304, her arms burdened with a stack of case files, each one representing the hope of her clients. As the doors creaked open, a wave of anticipation washed over the room, revealing a packed courtroom filled with people waiting for their cases to be heard. The air was thick with unspoken tension, as those present sensed the gravity of the proceedings about to unfold. As Alara stepped inside, the previously murmuring crowd fell silent. Her entrance commanded their attention, an unspoken acknowledgement of her tenacity and dedication. When her eyes locked with Judge Castellanos, she felt a shiver run down her spine. The judge's gaze was piercing and resolute, his expression stern and unyielding, reminiscent of the oak paneling that loomed behind him, steadfast and unmovable. Alara took a deep breath, steadying herself for the battle ahead. She understood that today was not just another case on the docket. It was a fight for justice, a fight for what was right. With her heart pounding and her mind focused, she prepared to address the court, knowing that every word she spoke could mean the difference between security and the uncertain abyss that awaited her client and her family. It was a responsibility she took seriously, and she was ready to rise to the occasion. "Miss Castellanos Gonzalez," he said, his voice slicing through the heavy silence of the courtroom like a knife. "You do realize you are late for my courtroom?" Alara took a deep breath, steadying herself as she squared her shoulders, her posture unyielding in the face of the judge's reprimand. "Your Honor," she began, her tone respectful yet firm, "I sincerely apologize for my tardiness. I was addressing an urgent emergency with a pro bono client, a single mother who is facing an unjust eviction. I couldn't in good conscience abandon her at such a critical moment." The judge's gaze was like a steel trap, unflinching and unwavering. "Miss Castellanos Gonzalez," he replied, his voice steady and authoritative, "this is my courtroom. In my courtroom, we start at 9 a.m. sharp, without exception. The schedule is set for a reason, and disruptions cannot be tolerated." As his words echoed around the room, the air thickened with tension, a silent symphony of accusation and defense playing out in the heavy atmosphere. Alara could feel the weight of the stares directed at her, most notably from the corporate lawyers representing the opposing side, whose expressions twisted into smug smirks. Dressed in their finely tailored three-piece suits that gleamed like the chrome of a high-end luxury car, they radiated an air of superiority as they exchanged glances, clearly relishing the moment of her misstep. The atmosphere crackled with the unspoken judgments of those present, and Alara, undeterred, stood her ground. She understood the stakes of her work, the lives affected by the outcomes of this courtroom. Each second that passed felt like an eternity as the judge's steely expression slowly altered, a flicker of consideration briefly breaking through his stern demeanor. "I fully recognize the importance of adherence to court schedules," Alara continued passionately, her voice rising slightly as she leaned forward in urgency. "But I urge you to consider the plight of individuals who rely on legal representation during their most vulnerable moments. My client's situation is dire and warrants compassion, not just protocol." The murmurs of the audience faded into a muted background, and the judge, for a brief moment, hesitated. Alara seized the opportunity, her heart pounding fiercely in her chest. The gravity of her words resonated throughout the room, a defiant stand against the impersonal machinery of the judicial system that often overlooked those in need. "Your Honor," she began, her voice steady and unwavering as she stood before the court, her posture reflecting a quiet confidence. My client's small electronics repair business is being unfairly targeted by a large corporation that seems intent on crushing any competition. The patent they claim we infringed upon was developed independently by my client and predates their own, a fact that is both undeniable and clearly documented. She glanced at the judge, noting the slight furrow in his brow as her words landed. The tension in the courtroom felt palpable, an electric charge of skepticism hanging in the air. The judge's interruptions grew more frequent, his skepticism bleeding through every query he posed. Yet Alara remained unflappable. Her voice, a beacon of conviction amidst the storm of doubt and corporate bullying, pierced through the noise of the courtroom. With each eloquent defense, she painted a clear picture of a small business grappling with the weight of an oppressive lawsuit, a David versus Goliath. Goliath scenario unfolding in a place where justice was meant to prevail. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and throughout this grueling legal battle, Alara found herself pouring every ounce of her energy and passion into her client's case, tirelessly combing through documents and gathering evidence that showcased her client's ingenuity and hard work. What started as an arduous fight for survival gradually transformed into something more significant, a stand against an unjust system. Alara's impromptu act of kindness toward the Castillo family, evident in her unwavering support and readiness to fight back against the seeming onslaught they faced, had not gone unnoticed. Whispers of a softer, more empathetic Judge Castellanos began to echo through the hallowed halls of the downtown courthouse. Observers noted the subtle shifts in his demeanor. The once stern, silver-haired man, known for his rigid adherence to the letter of the law, now seemed to have been touched by the plight of the Castillo family. Before long, it became clear that his heart had been unthawed by the warmth of human compassion, a sentiment that shed light on the often overlooked personal stories behind legal battles. As testimonies unfolded and evidence was presented, those who had initially viewed Judge Castellanos as an unyielding figure in the courtroom began to see hints of understanding and empathy. There was a newfound patience in his gaze, a softer tone in his voice, a recognition that perhaps these cases were not merely legalities, but were fundamentally tied to the lives and dreams of everyday people. In this environment of compassion, Alara fought not just for a verdict, but for dignity, for hope, and for the very soul of a small business that represented the dreams of an industrious family. In the solemn and austere chambers of Judge Castellanos, the air, once permeated by a biting chill that matched his reputation, gradually became warmer, infused with an openness that seemed almost palpable. As he sat at his grand desk, surrounded by shelves crammed with legal tomes and case files, he found himself engaged in a profound internal debate, one that challenged the very foundations of his judicial philosophy. The once rigid scales of justice, which had long balanced strictly on the principles of law and order, began to tilt ever so slightly towards the side of mercy, a notion that had, in the past, felt alien and misplaced in his courtroom. In stark contrast to the evolving mindset of Judge Castellanos, Alara's career continued to rise like a phoenix from the ashes of the city's legal underbelly, thriving amidst the shadows where her dedication shone the brightest. Her relentless advocacy for the marginalized and the forgotten did not go unnoticed. Her name became synonymous with hope and resilience. In a profession often clouded with skepticism and doubt, Alara emerged as a beacon of integrity and inspiration, transforming the lives of those who had been left voiceless in the clutches of an unforgiving legal system. Stories of her groundbreaking work spread through the city like wildfire, igniting passion in others who wished to follow in her footsteps. Then, on one unexpectedly fateful afternoon, Judge Castellanos received a peculiar envelope that disrupted his contemplative solitude. It was embellished with the distinguished seal of the Bar Association, an emblem of authority that commanded respect. With a mix of curiosity and apprehension, he opened the envelope to reveal an invitation, an opportunity to join Ilara as a speaker at the prestigious annual conference. The theme emblazoned across the top of the document read, "Legal Compassion in a Modern Courtroom," a phrase that, not too long ago, would have struck him as an oxymoron, now resonated deeply with his evolving perspective. As the day of the conference approached, the anticipation was palpable. The grand conference room was filled with the electric chatter of eager legal minds, each person buzzing with ideas and theories about the future of justice and the role of compassion within it. When Judge Castellanos stepped onto the stage, a transformation was evident, not only in the way he carried himself, but also in how he was seen by those in attendance. The austere, fearsome judge they had once anticipated now stood before them as a man reflecting on his journey, a man who had come to understand the importance of empathy within the law. With each word he spoke, he revealed the profound transformation he had undergone. He spoke candidly about the lessons learned from the notorious Castillo case, a turning point in his career that forced him to confront the stark realities of the people behind the legal jargon. He argued passionately for the necessity of judges to not only declare judgment, but to actively listen, engage with, and understand the stories of those who entered their courtrooms. The audience was captivated, spellbound by his sincerity and the authenticity of his journey. They could see the genuine evolution from a man once defined by the rigid contours of legalism to one who embraced the softer edges of humanity that often lay hidden beneath the surface of the law. In that moment, Judge Castellanos and Ilara, two seemingly disparate figures united by their shared experiences and newfound beliefs, stood as warriors of a newly envisioned legal ethos. One where compassion would no longer be seen as a weakness, but rather as an essential cornerstone of justice. As their voices rose together in solidarity, they ignited a spark within the hearts of those present, a quiet promise that the legal landscape could indeed be transformed, one case at a time, by the simple yet profound act of understanding. Ilara trailed behind, her voice rising and falling like a gentle melody, captivating the room as she recounted her transformative experiences within the mentorship program. She spoke of the profound impact it had made not only on her own life, but more importantly, on the lives of her clients. With each heartfelt story, she brought to life the struggles and triumphs of those she had helped, illustrating a vision of a legal system that embraced every voice, ensuring that justice transcended mere blindness, infused instead with the wisdom of 1,000 discerning eyes. As she and her colleagues shared their narratives, the audience was spellbound, hanging on to their every word as if they were precious jewels. Applause erupted at the conclusion of their presentations, a resounding echo that filled the air like the roar of a mighty storm, each clap a testament to the undeniable power of their unified vision. What had begun as small ripples of change within the community had crescendoed into overwhelming waves, lapping eagerly at the shores of the larger legal world, ready to reshape its very foundations. Fast forward several months, and a young attorney by the name of Quentin McAllister found himself standing nervously before Judge Castellanos, his heart pounding in his chest and his palms clammy against the surface of his suit pants. He was representing a widow in dire straits, poised precariously against the threat of eviction, an all too familiar scene that mirrored the infamous Castillo case. As he stood up to present his plea, Quentin felt the weight of the moment heavy on his shoulders. The judge, known for his stern demeanor, leaned forward from the bench, his gaze piercing, yet somehow radiant with understanding and compassion. "Speak, Mr. McAllister," Judge Castellanos encouraged, his voice softer than it had ever resonated within that courtroom. "I am listening." The words hung like a suspended promise in the air around them, an unspoken agreement that fairness would reign supreme in this space. Feeling a surge of courage, Quentin inhaled deeply, allowing his shaky hands to steady as a newfound sense of resolve fortified his spirit. He recognized that this was no ordinary courtroom. It was a sanctuary where justice was not merely about achieving victory, but rather about correcting the wrongs that had been inflicted upon the vulnerable. In that moment, he understood that he had an opportunity, a rare chance to advocate not just for his client, but to stand in solidarity with all those who had been overlooked, silenced, or marginalized within the labyrinth of the legal system. The case unfolded with an unprecedented grace that captivated everyone present. The widow, frail yet determined, stood at the center of a storm that had wreaked havoc on her life. Her plight was met not only with empathy from those around her, but also with a profound sense of shared humanity that transcended the sterile confines of the legal system. As she recounted her harrowing experience, the courtroom fell silent, each individual resonating with her sorrow. There was an unspoken bond created by her bravery. Meanwhile, the corporate lawyers, clad in sharp suits and exuding an air of superiority, presented their objections with a polished detachment that seemed at odds with the heartfelt testimonies. Yet, even their fierce arguments were met with a patience that spoke volumes of the spirit of this remarkable trial. Each counter made the ground beneath their feet tremble. It became clear that the courtroom was no longer just a battleground for legal supremacy, but a sanctuary where justice could reclaim its rightful place. When the verdict was finally read, there was a palpable tension that hung in the air, thick and electric. And when the decision favored the widow, echoing her silent struggle, the courtroom erupted in applause, a chorus of clapping hands resonating like a powerful anthem of victory. It was a moment where the essence of justice was not dictated by wealth or privilege, but by integrity and compassion. Outside the courthouse, beneath the fading light of day, the widow turned to express her heartfelt gratitude to her young advocate, whose tireless efforts had helped illuminate her path to justice. Alara Castellanos Gonzalez watched from a distance, her heart swelling with pride as a smile danced across her lips. She had envisioned this moment, the culmination of her hard work and passion for law, and now it was manifest, vibrant and alive. Alara understood deeply that she had planted a seed of hope, which had now blossomed into something beautiful, a testament to the power of belief and determination. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, enchanting shadows over Elmwood City's courthouse, a structure steeped in history and significance. Yet, within its hallowed walls, a different kind of light flickered, a light of compassion and understanding which shone brighter than ever before. In courtroom 304, a legacy was born, one that championed justice and fostered understanding, reminding everyone that the scales of justice should balance for all, regardless of wealth or social standing. As the final gavel of the day fell, reverberating through the wooden benches and laden with finality, it became abundantly clear that the tale of Judge Castellanos and Alara Castellanos Gonzalez had evolved into something profound. No longer merely a narrative, it had transcended into a beacon of hope, guiding the future of the law in Elmwood City and beyond. Their journey illustrated a commitment to uphold the dignity of the individual, promising that justice would be accessible and fair, ensuring that every voice would matter in the grand tapestry of society. In the months that followed, the ripples of change that had begun to stir gradually built into mighty waves, signifying a profound transformation within the walls of justice. The downtown courthouse, once a place where the scales tipped precariously in favor of the powerful, now reflected a noticeable shift, an encouraging, gentle tide that was turning towards fairness and equity for all those who sought its sanctuary. Notably, Judge Castellanos emerged as a pivotal figure in this journey of transformation. His demeanor underwent a remarkable evolution. The sternness that had once defined his judicial presence softened, revealing a compassionate mentor who willingly took the time to guide aspiring lawyers through the often bewildering labyrinth of legalities. His once furrowed brow now carried the marks of empathetic understanding, as he offered wisdom and insight to those navigating the complexities of the legal system. Amidst this atmosphere of change, Alara dedicated herself to her work with renewed vigor and fervor, approaching each case with the determination and passion that fueled her quest for justice. Each client's story was not just a file on her desk, it represented a stepping stone on her path, illuminating a broader mission to empower those whose voices had been stifled for too long. Her office, which had previously stood as a symbol of order, professionalism, and precision, now wore the visible marks of her tireless advocacy. Papers were scattered across her desk in a chaotic yet meaningful arrangement, with coffee cups piled up as silent witnesses to late nights and early mornings spent seeking justice. The air was filled with a palpable urgency as a never-ending stream of clients walked through her door, each one seeking her expertise and compassion in their moment of need. Supporting her through this whirlwind was her assistant, Rivenwood, a bright-eyed young law graduate whose enthusiasm for the law matched Alara's unyielding commitment. Despite his diligent efforts to keep pace with the demands of a bustling office, he frequently found himself playing catch-up. Each day was a whirlwind of back-to-back appointments, urgent phone calls, and a relentless flow of paperwork. Yet, amidst the chaos, he remained a steady source of encouragement for Alara, offering the occasional comforting pat on the back or an invigorating cup of coffee to help her navigate the long hours. Their camaraderie blossomed in this environment, with Rivenwood learning not only the intricacies of the law, but also the profound impact of compassion in the pursuit of justice. Together, they worked against the tide of adversity, their combined efforts reflecting a commitment to making the downtown courthouse a beacon of hope for those who dared to seek it. Meanwhile, Judge Castellanos had evolved into a powerful symbol of judicial empathy and understanding. His courtroom, which had once been a place shrouded in intimidation due to its strict discipline and stern demeanor, had undergone a remarkable transformation. It was now celebrated for its welcoming atmosphere and the profound sense of humanity that permeated its walls. Lawyers, many of whom had previously approached the judge with trepidation, now shared stories of his remarkable metamorphosis with a mix of awe and relief. They recounted how the same judge who had once been viewed as an unyielding arbiter of the law had become a beacon of compassion, taking the time to listen to the concerns and struggles of those who stood before him. The courthouse buzzed with lively whispers of the so-called Miracle of 304, a reference to his courtroom number that had come to be synonymous with a fresh approach to justice. Young attorneys, energized by this newfound environment, eagerly clamored for the opportunity to present their cases before him. They viewed it as a privilege to stand in front of a judge who had gained a reputation not only for fairness, but also for his willingness to mentor and guide the next generation of legal professionals. The shift in Judge Castellanos's demeanor inspired many in the legal community. It demonstrated how empathy could coexist with the rigorous demands of the law, reminding everyone that behind each case there were real people with their own stories, fears, and hopes. As news of his transformation spread, it instigated conversations about the importance of compassion in the judicial system, laying the groundwork for a broader movement toward reform that prioritized understanding and rehabilitation over punishment and harshness.